Hello and welcome to beautiful France. This is the Tour de Vendée. We start in Mouilleron-Saint-Germain, and just like last year, we have our finish in La Roche-sur-Yon. 400 meters more than we did last year. And let's have a look at the highlights from last year's race. This is Anthony de la Place, one of the most experienced riders on the Arkea Samsic team. On the attack, all by himself, the peloton led by the Groupama FDG team. By then, still the team, of course, of Arnaud Desmar. We have some counterattacks as we are on the local laps around La Roche-sur-Yon. A lot of looking at each other and then going into that final kilometre. We have Desmar in third wheel. On his wheel is Brian Coquard, and in the green behind Brian Coquard is Luca Mozzato. It's a fantastic lead out by the team of Groupama FDG. Still two riders in front of Desmar, a last rider in front of the former French champion. Mozzato on the wheel of Coquard, Coquard on the wheel of Arnaud Desmar. A little bit of elevation there in that final few hundred meters, and then the sprint. On the left side we have Desmar, through the middle we have Coquard, in the green it's Mozzato, and it's going to be the man from Cofidis who is going to be victorious in this edition of the Tour de Vendée 2022. Fantastic lead out there by Groupama FDG, but sadly for the team it was not finished by Arnaud Desmar, because he finishes in second place behind Coquard, Mozzato, Noppe, Louvel, Sinkeldam, Sarrault, Dujardin, Simon, and Maël Guégan is the top 10 of last year's race. Yeah, we have our winner and our runner-up of last year's race on the start line, but most people were watching and looking out for this man, because today, after 121 victories, it's the final race day on a road bike for Peter Sagan, the man from Slovakia, the absolute superstar of cycling. We'll have a little portrait of this legend coming up for you after these multiple autographs here at the start. People coming all the way from Slovakia to be part of this moment. Yeah, an absolute legend of cycling. 3 world titles, the only one doing it 3 times in a row, actually. The man who always made the show, really, whether that was all the way in the Gruppetto or all the way at the front here in Richmond, Virginia. The first of his 3 world titles, Doha and Bergen in Norway, would follow. Of course, there were the green jerseys. There were 12 stage wins in the Tour de France, 7 green jerseys, and next to the 12 stage wins in the Tour, he also finished in the top 10 92 times. This is his 3rd title, and what I remember from that day is that we didn't see him the entire day, actually, and then in the final he was there. He was on the podium so many times in the Champs-Élysées, and the fan base, they were always there with the flags of Slovakia. And an era in cycling ends today here in Tour de Vendée, which is the home base of his team, Total Energy. Yeah, our start was in Saint-Hilaire. We make a big loop through all these lovely tiny villages and then make our way to the east, to the west, to La Roche-sur-Yon, where we have 6 local laps, 2 of 11.6 kilometers and 4 of 5.9 before we know who's going to be the winner of this year's edition of the Tour de Vendée. 82.6 kilometers to go in the Tour de Vendée. We've got 207.1 in total. That is 400 meters more than we did last year. But the final is it's looking a little bit different. I'll tell you more about that. My name is José Bain. With me today is Brian Smith. Brian, the final race of the French National Cup. What is the French National Cup?
It's a cup they have in France for French teams and other teams. No, it's like they've got, how many events is it they've got in the French Cup? There's in
14,
the Belgian
15?
Cup. I've got about 10. Here they've got, I think, 14, 15 in the French Cup, and I think the last time was it the
17.
17. That's a lot. That's a lot of races. I think the Belgian Cup was, we commented on it. I think there was 10 in the Belgian Cup, and I think Caleb Ewan won the overall in it.
Yep.
I don't think he was really too kind of bothered about that. But I think this is always hotly contested. A lot of the French teams really want to kind of win this. It means something to them. You know, we have in Britain, or we used to have a kind of race series. But yeah, it's just a national race series. It's simple as that, and there's points awarded, and the points awarded go to individuals and teams. I think in the French Cup it's more important, the team classification, than the individual classification, although it's nice to have something on your palmarès. But that's a lot of races in this, so yeah, it's very competitive. I always love the races in France. This is where I learned my craft, a lot of it. I rode for ACBB and in Paris, and I rode a lot of the kind of classic races and some of the stage races around here. So this is where I learned pretty much how to kind of race my bike. And it's always been the same. These races that I rode many years ago, very competitive, and these French races always competitive. I just love covering the French Championships. I've done that for the last few years. It's just right. All the French teams just knocking lumps at each other. It's brilliant.
Yeah, the French National Championships all the way in the north was a race of attrition this year. But we go back to the Tour de Vendée. We got, well, just shy of 2 hours left to race. We had a breakaway of 4 riders, actually, that took off straight from the start with Paul Hennequin, a French rider of Nice Métropole Côte d'Azur, a team from, well, hey, the Côte d'Azur, and Filippo Ridolfo, an Italian rider of Team Novo Nordisk. But our breakaway is now down to just 2 riders. We have Eneco Asparen. He is the youngest of the 2 Asparen brothers. They're both racing here today. And Thomas Gaginard of the Saint-Michel team. 2 jerseys that are quite similar. The orange, really orange of Euskaltel, and the orange and yellow of the Saint-Michel Mavic team. But yeah, with 18 kilometers to go, the final is absolutely full on already. What we have in the Vendée, which if you look on the map is on the west coast of France, beautiful region, normally on the coast quite flat, these really long beaches with the beautiful sand and sunshine. But if you go just slightly inland, you have these small punchy hills, and that is what we are doing today. It might look like a very flat affair, but all in all, this is a very hard race. This is Eneco Asparen, born in San Sebastian. His brother is moving to another team. He is staying behind with the Euskaltel team, and we know that Javier Miquel Asparen, both of them are stalemates in a lot of breakaways. He's moving on to Q36.5. Got 4 World Tour teams at the start here. Of course, the French ones with Cofidis, AG2R, Groupama FDJ, and Arkea Samsic, and the other French teams, Total Energie, and the smaller ones like Nantes, Roubaix, Nice, and Saint-Michel. And we have Total Energie, a team that have their home base here in the Vendée. They've been based here forever. Their education team, I wanted to say, but development team is the word. It's called Vendée even. And they have the big star on their team, Peter Sagan. This is going to be his last day in a pro peloton on a road bike. He is going for his final dream, and that is compete at the Paris Olympics. But Brian, after 121 victories, big classics, green jerseys, Tour de France stages, 3 world titles, one of the, I think, 5 men who managed to do 3. I don't think I exaggerate when I say that his time at Total Energie was not really a successful one.
No, although you could see what the fans were like at the start today, the autographs. It's in a performance level, possibly not, but as as an individual and what you get back, definitely a rider that is important to a team, and especially on the team bus as well. He's such a huge character, and what he brings to a team is is great. And he's got his kind of entourage that kind of go with him. But yeah, I think he was coming to this team with a few riders to try. And look, we don't know this, but I probably kind of guess that even with him being part of the team and the experience he's got, I think he's going to pass that on. So individual performance, yeah, I don't think he's quite there after the races that he's won.
We have more attacks from the peloton. This is Nance Peters from the quick glance that we had there, the Tour de France stage winner. It's a lovely sunny day out here in the Vendée. And these French teams, like you said, they're really racing for it because there's still something at stake, especially for Groupama FDJ. At this moment, if you look at the standings in the French Cup, after 16 races, we have Arnaud Delis as our leader, but only 4 points behind him is Paul Penouet, the young sprinter of Groupama FDJ. So he has to finish 12th or better. And then he takes over the lead in the Coupe de France classification, which is a big deal. Arnaud Delis, great, not racing here, and for him it's less important than it would be for this rider and the team of Groupama FDJ. So they're going to try everything to get Penouet in a good position, and yeah, hopefully for him win the race. But there's 2 big rivals, and that is Arnaud Démare and Brian Coquard, the top 2 of last year, the other way around. Coquard won it, Démare was second. Those are our 2 big superstars when it comes to sprinting, Brian. Have you got different names for me?
I think you've already mentioned Penouet and Laurens Pitty. If it's so important for them, which I think it is, Penouet would be the going to go-to for Groupama. Venturini, maybe for AG2R. I think Total Energies, I've got Jason Tesson. Pura Sagan can't be discounted. You've mentioned Coquard and Démare. Thomas Boudard for Roubaix, Cardis for Saint Michel. But I think, like you say, that the 2 kind of top names seem to be Démare and Coquard, 1 and 2 from last year. But Démare now with Arkea Samsic, he's towards the front there. He has got Dan McClay, the British rider, on the team. It's sometimes a sprinter always finds it kind of difficult to fit into a team, and this was a during the season transfer for Démare, but he seems to fits in well with this team. Of course, in his Groupama years, he had a dedicated team lead out. We saw it in the VT just before the start that it's dedicated towards him. Sometimes when you jump teams, it's very difficult to get something like that back, but he seems to be in decent form and seems to be doing well. Like I was saying, there's very, with Team Arkea Samsic, it's got kind of multiple options, but you mentioned something there that had me thinking. We've got 18 World Tour teams. We have got 4 French teams. That's the most any country have got. 4 World Tour teams. They boast 4. That would be, any country. The Netherlands, Britain. What would we like if we had 4 World Tour teams? It's amazing that I've got. Okay, they might not be the top ranked teams in the World Tour, but having 40, it just goes to show you that 17 races in their French Cup, the National Cup, 4 World Tour teams. It just goes to show you how healthy French cycling is.
Yeah, from top to bottom, they've got a fantastic system with the development teams. All the World Tour teams have got their own development teams racing in the Division Nationale, the amateur league, and then you've got these third division teams that we have here as well, quite regionally based. They all get invitations to these races. They're televised live on the regional channels in France, all 17 of them, and we did quite a few of these races here on GCN, Eurosport and Discovery Plus as well. But the biggest factor, I think, that we have 4 World Tour teams in France is that even if these 4 World Tour teams are placed 15, 16, 17 and 18 on the ranking, they get an automatic invitation to the Tour de France. And that is their bread and butter. That is the sole reason of existence for many of the French teams. If they can't race the Tour de France, it's the end of the line.
Yeah, exactly like that. You know, the sponsors are kind of stepping up. This is, you know, kind of one of their national sports, and, you know, they grab it with both hands. But it's just interesting sometimes in these French races where wherever one of the World Tour or 2 of the World Tour teams go, the others follow. We just saw an incident there with AG2R Citroën going there and Cofidis following and others following. They always follow each other because they don't want to be in the back foot and kind of missing out. But yeah, it's just the way that they race. They're very competitive against each other.
Well, we have not only Sagan in his last race, but also Laurent Pichon, who is a rider who's been part of French racing for many seasons. You might have seen him in many a breakaway in the Paris-Nice, the Dauphiné, and of course the Tour de France. But the big name here is this man. And yeah, his career, like you said, Brian, his career might not have been generating the results in recent years, but when I went to the start of the Tour de France this year in the Basque country, I was kind of curious who would get the big applause, and of course the Basque riders got a huge applause. But out of the non-Basque, non-Spanish riders, this man got the biggest. It was not Jonas Vingegaard, it was not Wout van Aert, it was this man. He is still insanely popular, and I think what he brought to cycling is this little, this vibe of rock and roll. The clips that he made, the video with his former wife when they got married, and that Greece video that we had, and all the extracurricular activities mostly to his cycling career is what made him a larger than life character in cycling, more than just the lycra. And yeah, I think we'll miss that.
Yeah, it's something that we don't have enough. Cyclists, and possibly I was one of them in my career, we tend to be boring. You know, we're not flamboyant.
I'm not saying that you are boring, Brian, of course. Yeah, on the contrary.
No, I am. And we need characters within our sport. I've maybe changed a bit with my opinion. The moaning old Scot is on again, but I probably moan a lot more and complain a lot more than I used to do, and I don't mind giving my opinion and things. But for flamboyancy, yeah, Peter Sagan he's been a welcome element to the pro racing, because most people do not have that character, even in his interviews. And you know, he's a little bit, I don't know how well you know kind of David Beckham. It's one of these voices that you hear that you don't expect coming from a person when you speak to them. Peter Sagan's a little bit like that, and it's the way he jokes with some of the questions, and the way he laughs, the way he races, the way he rides. I think it was he that started the the wheelies and doing various different things. And yeah, it's just, you know, a character that will be missed in pro road racing. He's going over to mountain biking, and I'm sure they'll welcome him with open arms.
Yeah, they will welcome him back, because that is, of course, where it all started for Peter Sagan, or Sagan, actually, as they say in Slovakia. That's where it all started. He also had a silver medal in the cyclocross junior world championships in Treviso many years ago. But yeah, Flanders, Bingal, all these teams that we often see in the French races, they're all racing in Belgium or will be racing in Italy tomorrow in the Coppa Bernocchi. especially for Intermarché. It's important with an Italian sponsor like Vinizzabo. So yeah, we have a very small field here. It's super busy when it comes to the bike racing today. This morning you were on the Tour of Istanbul, of course a little appetizer for the Tour of Turkey that starts a week from now. And there's racing all over the place, despite the fact that it's the 1st of October. We've got, well, our penultimate race in Belgium. The last one will be on Tuesday, Binche-Binche. We got Münsterland Giro on Tuesday. We've got one more race in the Netherlands on Wednesday, and then these fantastic autumnal classics in Italy. Did you see the Giro dell'Emilia with that fantastic climb to San Luca?
Don't tell me, I've not caught up yet.
No? Did you see it? You haven't seen it? Okay.
No, I haven't seen it.
Go watch it.
I've got a few
it's
races
fantastic.
that I want to catch up on.
Yeah.
I never had a lot of time because of Langkawi and other things, and even yesterday, you know, with you know, different kind of sporting things happening, I've been busy.
Well, I do recommend to see that on our digital channels, because that final was absolutely breathtaking, and the aerial views of San Luca, of Italy in autumn. Well, we have quite a few of these races coming up: Bernocchi, Gran Piemonte, and of course Lombardia on Saturday. A lot of French winners here on our honour list.
And a Dutchman.
And a Dutchman, yeah, it happens sometimes.
But only the once. Normally it's double.
Ugh. I'll forgive you for that one. Under 70 kilometers to go, and they'll just keep our two leaders, yeah, within reach. We have Inigoc Asparen and Thomas Gachinard. Gachinard is a local rider. He's from the town of Niort, which is slightly more to the east, slightly more inland than where we're going in La Roche-sur-Yon. We're not going to the coast completely. Yeah, about 20 kilometers out from the coast. If you know France just a little bit, we are slightly to the south of Nantes and slightly to the north of La Rochelle, which is yeah, a major tourist hub. Well, for the Dutch and I think for the Brits as well, with these long sandy beaches and beautiful weather, mostly. Today as well, 25 degrees, going towards that 30 degrees mark. It's the 1st of October. We're full on Indian summer. Well, we started the summer in April this year. It's a bit worrying, but that's my opinion.
Did you watch Istanbul this morning?
No, I was out on the bike.
Okay then. Well, I won't spoil it for you, but just the weather was awful. Awful, the weather.
Really?
It wasn't cold, but yeah, it was raining cats and dogs, literally.
Ooh, and then on the streets of Istanbul, that is scary.
Yeah, well, it wasn't quite. You remember the stage that
Cavendish won?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, the stage that ended up on the beach in the Asian side of Istanbul. And then we get the boat back to Istanbul. You know, the main part of Istanbul. It started at the Blue Mosque.
Yeah.
And went over the Bosphorus Bridge and done that circuit.
Yeah.
It was that same. It was that same one that used to finish the Tour of Turkey.
Well, what I remember from the Tour of Turkey, I think you were there as well. I was still working for Eurosport Netherlands. Is that we almost died in a car crash.
I don't remember
and that. Was, you don't? We
that
were
was
in
fine.
the mid.
They
No,
were
it
good
was.
drivers.
Oh, absolutely, just ridiculous. Come on, it was a disaster. It was raining. It was raining, and then we were going downhill because the transfers were ridiculously long that year. You were probably asleep with Bobby, who was always asleep in the van or sick. But we ended up on the other side of the road, and there was this huge truck coming towards us, and he swerved back to the right, and we ended up on two wheels. How can... And the next morning I said, I'm not going to get back on that van anymore, and I'm never going back to Turkey unless I'm going to drive my own car. We had to change drivers, because if you looked at the profile of the tyres on that van, there was nothing on it. It was... And, well, never mind. It was... it's a trauma.
I decided this year is gonna be my last year on the road. I think it's time, you know.
Sagan, he gets the dozen. It's win number 12.
It's not like I'm giving up. It's just, it's 25 years I'm on the bike. It's a lot. Cycling was everything. It gives me a lot of experience, a lot of nice things, a lot of good emotions. It took me also a lot, sacrifices. But in the end, I don't regret anything, and I'm very satisfied with all things what I achieved and what I did. The big victory started in Tour de France. That changed definitely my career. Victory in Tour de France is a big one. Everything came fast, but constantly, you know. It wasn't like boom and everything changed. Every year I create, I think, yeah, every year something more. And nobody is ready for be superstar, and nobody's born for that kind of attention of the people going to lose or your private life. You have a lot of pressure, you are focused before the start, sometimes you are tired. You can always find 3-5 minutes for people, they are standing in the front of the bus, where the cycling is gonna be if the spectators are not coming to see us. And now I have also different priority. I have small son, that I don't see him that much. I would like to finish with the thing what I started. I started on mountain bike, and really my passion started. And next year I would like to focus for that, finish my career with the head up, and to be on Olympics game for last time. And after we'll see, as always. The life is going to show us our path.
Peter Sagan!
Yeah, nice little portrait there of the character that is Peter Sagan. Yeah, he started his career in what they call the Cancer Council Classic. That was that one like criterium before the Tour Down Under. And a Belgian journalist tells the story about that day, because it was in 2010 in Adelaide, and normally in that like show criterion before the Tour Down Under, the big star was usually at the front. And that year, that was of course the glorious return of Lance Armstrong with the Astana team in 2010. And Sagan, he was 19, is what Guy van der Langenberg writes, and just rather, well, cocky, just on the wheel of Lance Armstrong. It's like, I don't care about any conventions, I'm just going with him. And it was not just a one-off. He finished that Tour Down Under actually with a 5th place on Wollonga Hill with the likes of Alejandro Valverde and Cadel Evans, and yeah, and that was the first that the world saw of him 13 years ago. 211 victories later. And I always tend to say, well, you just heard it. It's like, yeah, but in recent years, his career was just not so glorious. But just like he said in the interview, I think he can be proud of what he achieved. 121 victories and more second places almost than he had wins. But what I remember, Brian, there was a year or 2 years that I did most of the American racing on Eurosport Netherlands, and he won half of these races in California, in Utah, and I was so sick of the guy. It's like, can somebody else win it right now? And then from being the champion, it kind of gradually morphed into being the underdog. It's weird how things like that go. And sometimes there were these moments, and for now, yeah, he's doing his final kilometers, but I think cycling owes a lot to Sagan. Back to our 2 leaders, the boys in orange, although this is more orangey yellow. This is, of course, a team sponsored by Cake, as we know by now. Saint-Michel Mavic, over 93, and he's joined Thomas Gachinard, joined by Enepoj Asparen. Yeah, the gap is down to 50 seconds, Brian. They just leave it like this for a little while?
They're just setting tempo, the French. There was a little bit of attacking just before. Groupama in the blue, just, you know, happy to set that tempo. They have got Penway at the you know, as their kind of main man. I'm just hearing that Lawrence Pitty is no longer in the race, so it'll be pretty much all for Penway today. So that's where they're riding, and Arkea Samsic in the reds, you know, they'll ride for Demar. But the other teams, we've seen, you know, a bit of action from a couple of other teams, really kind of interested in maybe kind of mixing things up, because they think if they come to the finish, then the chances against Demar and Kokar might not be as great if this race is too easy. So I think there's still a way to go in this race. 64 kilometres, 48 seconds. I don't think they're too kind of worried about these two riders, but at the same time, you know, the conditions today are a bit balmy. You know, to come into this part of the year having you know, really nice temperatures and, you know, almost perfect racing conditions. 25 at the start, 29 at the finish. It's brilliant.
Bit hot.
Yeah, for me it would be, yeah.
For me as well. Like for days now, I've been completely overdressed with long sleeves. Thinking,
I was out yesterday myself, just in stuff. I had shorts, just you know, small vest and short sleeves and things like that yesterday. So, you know, I was really surprised with the weather.
Yeah, I was completely overdressed, but it was a nice ride yesterday. Very flat. We don't have any categorized climbs. We do have some climbs where you can kind of see what kind of elevation we have today. These climbs are a few hundred meters to a kilometer long, but they do average 5, 6, 7%. So they do tend to take something out of the legs. When we get to the local circuit, that is at 46.6 kilometers to go. So yeah, 15, 16 kilometers from where we are now. Yeah, that's where all the action will really start. AG2R, rather small team here, doing a double program as well with racing in Belgium. They are here with Frank Bonamour, Nans Peters, Valentin Retalio, Clément Venturini and Jordan Labros, the youngster there on the squad. We heard that next week's Paris Tour, that is going to be on the Sunday. Next Sunday is going to be the final race for Greg van Avermaet. And that means, Brian, that in a week's time, we're going to say goodbye to two, big names from classics racing. We already said goodbye to Sepp van Marke earlier this year due to a cardiac problem. Now Sagan, of course, Thibaut Pinot. There's a lot of big riders retiring this year, a lot of big names saying goodbye. It feels like this year there's more than ever.
Possibly, yeah. I think, like you say, big names retiring. You know, with Sagan moving over to mountain bike, and like you say, Greg van Avermaet and Sepp van Marke, and there's a few others. It's not been announced yet with Mark Cavendish, but you know, he did announce he was retiring at the end of the year, but it looks like he'll keep going until the Tour de France at least, hopefully next year. But that's still to be announced. But you know, you only have to see who Astana are signing up. That gives you a bit of kind of relevance to what, you know, what may be announced soon. But yeah, it just happens. You know, you make a decision and that happens. But it does feel as if we're losing some riders that have been there and thereabouts for a few years now.
It also makes me feel kind of old, because this is I started in cycling commentary in 2012. And a lot of the names that were really up there when I started and did my first years, they're all gone now. And it really, you really have to get to know the new names. And it's great, of course, you grow with them, but there's nobody left in the peloton younger than me anymore. And it makes me feel kind of old. Sagan is, of course, only 33. But like he said, this sport has been part of my life for 25 years. He started as a professional with Liquigas back when he was 19. So 14 years of his career, and he explained in that little clip what it takes to be a professional, and now he just wants to spend time with his son Marlon. I do hope that he has a great time. I do hope that he's not going to be drunk driving again, because apart from all the fantastic words that we have for Sagan, of course, there was also incidents with him. Just a couple of months ago, he was caught rather drunk on a moped in Monaco. And yeah, that's of course something that you don't want to encourage or see. 33 seconds for these two riders. The man at the front is going to make a big transfer. He's 23, Thomas Gachinard, and he's going to transfer to Team Total Energie. It was a bit of a weird period, wasn't it, Brian, when Total Energie got both Peter Sagan and Nicky Terpstra on board, and both of them never really kind of delivered on what the team had hoped for, and now they're going back to mostly French riders again.
Yeah, did Terpstra not have a bit of a problem, but health
yeah,
problem or something like that?
No, he had a terrible, really terrible crash. I think it was 2020 or 21 when he basically landed on his sternum on one of these like blocks of, I don't know what kind of rock it is, but we have next to the dikes to protect the dikes, and he ended up in the ICU, and he never recovered from that. So I'm not blaming him, but it's like they got two big stars at Team Total Energie, and they never really got the wins. And the team is perpetually struggling. So a little bit of a revamp going on there at Team Total Energie. If you look at the European Championships last week, some absolute fantastic racing by Sandy Dujardin, by Anthony Turgis. And I do like to think that somebody like Anthony Turgis, who is a big prospect when it comes to classics racing, did learn a trick or two from Peter Sagan and Nicky Terpstra. We should almost have our two leaders in the same shot if the peloton is not almost hitting the brakes here, Brian. They're going so slow now. If they would go any slower, they would just keel over.
Yeah, there's no real kind of concerted chase. It's only two riders at the front. They're just easing out that corner, but you know, they'll just set a tempo at the front. The reason for doing that is they don't really want any attacks to happen. We've already seen a couple just earlier on, AG2R being one of them, so they'll just ride a tempo that makes sure that nobody wants to attack, but there's nothing they can do about the two riders that are in front. If they're not pushing on, then you know, if they're brought back, then we come on to these 6 loops at the end, and hopefully we'll have some entertaining racing. I'm pretty sure we will. AG2R will try to do something. There's a few teams in here that won't be happy just for Arkea Samsic in the red and Groupama FDJ in the blue, just to kind of roll into town and, you know, let's have a sprint at the end.
Pieces are there. It's going to be absolutely fantastic race. You can watch it live from start to finish here on October the 7th, and then our final one-day race will be Paris-Tours on Sunday as well, which is going to be the goodbye race for another few, another group of big name riders. And then we have the Tour of Guangxi, Brian. Everybody's thrilled to go there. I heard from some anonymous riders that they are not thrilled to go there, apart from the ones who live in New Zealand or Australia, who use it on their way back, travelling down under.
I think we want to try and kind of globalise cycling. I know the UCI do. It's important to go to different countries to you know, for China, I was talking about this the other day, that when I started kind of engaging with some potential companies over there, even some riders, they class Europe as a country. They don't know anything about the Tour de France. It's it's a huge country, and there's there's a lot of money there. It's economy's pretty good. So at the end of the day, it's one of these things that if you try to globalise cycling, you're talking about, if we look at Formula One is in all over the world.
But I don't mean that people don't like it that it is in China. It is that it is another stage race, a final stage race mid-October, when teams have already had their first meetings for the next season, and then riders still have to, watch what they eat, still do their training, while many are still in off-season mode. I have nothing against China. It's the moment on the calendar that a lot of riders don't really appreciate all that much.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. There's a lot of teams, logistics, everything round about at time of year, like you say. I know there's a lot of riders that, even top riders that I've known, haven't really kind of wanted to go to the event.
Can you name 2 winners of the Tour of Guangxi?
No.
No. I'm going to look it up now. I have Tim Wellens in my head as a former winner, but I'll check. Yeah, he did indeed win one in 2017. That was. Yeah, Tim Wellens won the first. Gianni Moscon won in 2018, and the last edition was Enric Mas, Daniel Felipe Martinez, and Diego Rosa on the podium, and then of course 2020, 21 and 22 we didn't have the race due to the COVID crisis in China just being on lockdown for a very prolonged period of time. So this is going to be the 4th edition.
I suppose if you're looking for points, then
it is exactly that. It's the same amount of points as you would get in the Tour of the Basque Country or in Romandy. It's a World Tour race, it's a World Tour stage race. You get points, big ones.
What do points make?
Sorry?
It's just a saying that we have in the UK.
Oh.
What do points make? Prices.
I don't know. Oh, sorry. I thought this was a dad joke and I was not in on it.
Probably is, yeah.
But it is in 11 days from now. You can watch it live here. We also have the Women's Tour of Guangxi, which is also a World Tour event, and the women also still have the Tour of Chongming, which is a Chinese island. Very flat with one bridge, usually super fast racing. 55 kilometers to go here in the Tour de Vendée, and we still have these 2 leaders with Enecoch Asparen and Thomas Gachinard. The peloton is slowing down even more as to not catch these riders. We're about 10 kilometers out from the finish line.
They've already shaken hands about 5
then
kilometers
it's time
ago.
to catch them. You can't do it again. It's a rule.
I wonder what they're talking about.
I think
Nice
the new,
weather.
the new AirPod Pro. I think they're talking about. Yesterday on my ride, I saw somebody on the side of the road, and he was like looking. It's like, did he lose his contact lens? So I stopped and I said, "Can I help you?" But he missed one of his earbuds that had fallen out, so he had to go all the way back. I don't know if he found it, but he didn't need any of my assistance. Not that I can help with repairing tires or whatever, but you know, you do ask if you can do something. It's the right thing to do. But who's looking for one of his AirPods pods?
Maybe if he'd have put them on and turned it up loud, you'd might been able to hear it.
It doesn't work like that. If you don't have them in, they don't play. They only play when you put them in your ear. You do know what AirPods are, Brian?
Yeah, don't use them. Don't use them.
You're only a few years older than I am. No, it's quite controversial whether you use them. I'm not going into that discussion. Everything quite close together with our two leaders who just, decided to go a little bit faster again. We've got 101 riders on the start line. The teams here from France, the World Tour teams, Cofidis, AG2R, Groupama FDJ and Arkea Samsic.
Maybe the sports directors have just seen them riding two up and shake hands and said to them, oh,
it's not
no,
over
no,
yet.
No. You have to keep on riding.
Then we have the pro teams of Total Energy and from Spain, Burgos BH, Equipoken Pharma, Euskaltel, and we have Novo Nordisk here on the start line. The French third division teams of Nantes, Roubaix, Saint-Michel and Nice. We've got Expeat, United Continental, and something you don't see all that often in French races, a Portuguese team. Of course, Portuguese teams normally stay in and around Portugal, where they have a whole lot of races where we don't normally see anything off, apart from Algarve, all the way back in February. But the racing here, the ABTF Betão Ferense team with Portuguese riders and Tiano da Silva for South Africa.
I believe we talk about...
Ooh, look at the horses.
Yeah, the horses, yeah. It's just the colours, isn't it? We talk about the Grand Tours and how we've got Spain, France and Italy. But I believe at one stage, the Tour of Portugal was 3 weeks.
Yeah, they called it La Grandissima, the Tour of Portugal. One of these races that I try to follow, but we don't see a lot because of all of these teams. It's usually dominated by the Portuguese teams, and usually also a few months later some doping positives come up as well, which sadly is also part of the Tour of Portugal for many years. But really, really hard racing from the riders who have been there each and every day, and fantastic courses since Portugal is such an amazing and such a beautiful country.
He's just putting his Uber Eats order in for when he gets brought back.
Well, if you don't want to hear the results of the European Gravel Championships, since we do have them on our digital channels with Rob Hatch and Ollie Beckinsale, just turn off the sound right now.
Is it the Europeans?
Yeah, 1 week before the Worlds. It's in Belgian town of Oud-Heverlee, and last week Lorena Wiebes had to give up her European Champions jersey, and today she won a new one. She won ahead of Fem van Empel and Elena Cecchini. The race actually was not won by Lorena Wiebes. By
How does that work out then?
It's the European Championships, but Tiffany Cromwell.
So she
was
never
part.
won. She never won it, but
no.
She gets the jersey, and it's European Championships.
Yeah.
And then there's people from
Australia,
outside the Europeans.
Yeah.
Racing.
And they won the race.
They won it, and so it's a race within a race.
Yeah. It's a bit like we do, for example, the under-23 nationals for the women here in the Netherlands. But Tiffany Cromwell actually won the race. Okay, we start again at 51 kilometers to go. We're 5 kilometers out from the finish line in La Roche-sur-Yon. And then we have the local circuits. First, we're going to do the big one that we did last year 4 times. And then this year they introduced the smaller one, basically half of the big one. So first the 11.6 lap, and then the 5.9 lap. And like, yeah, throughout the race, we have these little climbs as well. Yeah, maybe a good moment to take you through the history of the Coupe de France of this year. We always start with the Grand Prix La Marseillaise, all the way the final weekend of January in, well, surprise, surprise, Marseille. It was an absolute stunning victory there for Nielsen Paulus. And then, yeah, 1.5 months without any French Cup racing, and then we continue with the Grand Prix de Denain, which is a sort of mini Paris-Roubaix. You might remember the guy going straight into the mountain of Menor, and that race was won by Milano, thanks to the fantastic work of Mikkel Bjerg. 2 days later, we go to the Loire region with the Classique Loire Atlantique. That was won by Axel Zingler, and the day after, Laurens Petit of Groupama FDJ won in Cholet, Pays de la Loire. Rory Townsend won a fantastic sprint in La Route Tourangelle. The Route Adélie was for Frederik Dversnes, the now Norwegian champion of UNOX. His weight in Camembert for the Paris Camembert race went to Valentin Ferron. Tour de Doubs was for Herrada. The Grand Prix de Morbihan was for Arnaud Delis. Giacomo Nizzolo won one of the coolest races on the calendar, the Trobro-Lyon. Tour de Finistère was for Paul Penouet. Boucle de l'Aune, yeah, most likely the final victory for Greg van Avermaet. The Mercantour Classics, the most hilly of them all, went to Richard Carapaz. Poli Normande, another win for Arnaud Delis. Now we are mid-August, and then only a few weeks ago in the north of the country, the Grand Prix de Fourmies, a sprint by Tim Merlier, very close sprint that was, and a week after that, Matteo Moschetti in the Grand Prix d'Isbergue. Those were the 16 races that we have, and they're basically in all corners of France, all the way in the north like Isbergue and Fourmies, all the way in the south like the Marseillaise and the Mercantour. Some of them in the east like the Tour de Doubs, but yeah, the majority of races actually are in the western part of the country, in Normandy, in Brittany, in the Loire region, and here in the Vendée. Often supported by the regional governments of these regions. And like I said, most of these races have a lot of history. Apart from one, the Mercantour Classic, which is super young. This is our 52nd edition of the Tour de Vendée. The very first winner was all the way back in 1980. And, well, it's Mr. Vendée himself, Jean-René Bernardeau, who won that edition. He's, of course, now the big boss at the Total Energy team that was Europcar and D-Box and all these names in the past. But he's a man from the region. A lot of French winners in the history. We had our record winner, actually, from Estonia, Jan Kirsipuu, won it 4 times in his career. Dutch winners as well, and then yeah, mostly French in recent years, with Coquard and Demar and Mozzato, who's Italian, on the podium last year. Former winners on the start line here are Brian Coquard, Bram Welten, who won in 2021. Now racing for the Groupama FDG team. Other winners who are still actively racing are Marc Sarrault, but not here. Nico Dens, Christophe Laporte, of course, our new European champion, and Nasser Bouhani. He's not racing because, well, Demar is racing today. And this is Laurent Pichon, a local man who is also saying goodbye to his professional career today. One of these riders that if you look up domestique in the dictionary, you'll probably end up with Laurent Pichon, this man. And up till the, well, final hour of his road cycling career, he's doing his job, Laurent Pichon. I think Pichon is actually like French colloquial for piggy, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll look it up. Yeah, the two teams of our sprinters here. Arkea Samsic, Arnaud Demar. It still takes a little bit of getting used to, Brian. That new jersey, that mid-season transfer. And the Groupama FDG team for Paul Penouet. An up-and-comer of the development team of Groupama FDG. We're almost at the stage right now that 75% of riders on the Groupama FDG World Tour team are from their own development squad, including the likes of, for example, Lenny Martinez.
Well, that really is the way to do it, isn't it? You know, develop the riders yourself. You know, it's smart and probably saves them a lot of money as well. But yeah, it's not often we get mid-season transfers, and you know, Demar is, since his transfer, he's done okay. He's ridden well. From memory, he hasn't had a win yet for Arkea. So maybe today.
Yeah, he was pretty close actually. Made the transfer on the 1st of August. His last win was the Brussels Pro Cycling Classic for his previous employer. There was a 4th place in Hamburg for Demar, a 7th place in Fourmi, a 3rd place in Isberge. Those were 2 races that ended in a sprint as well. And of course, last week at the European Championships, he had a mechanical in the final. Another name that we haven't mentioned just yet, but we do have Novo Nordisk moving up to the front as we speak, is Matthias Kopecky, or Kopecki. He's a very promising young rider, Czech passport, but actually living in the Netherlands, fluent in Dutch. He was diagnosed with diabetes when he was 16, and yeah, quite a few good results, close to that top 10. And especially in this field, I do expect that he will do well. There was a 5th place last week at the under-23 European Championships in the Netherlands. So the form is there for Matthias Kopecki. The entire family races bikes. His brother with the Tour de Titema Unibet team, and his sister with AG Insurance Soudal Quickstep. But a name to remember, Matthias Kopecki, for what I would hope for him is a top 5. I think he has it in him today, especially in this peloton. So we're doing that 11.6 kilometer loop. The next time we cross the finish line will be in 8 kilometers. Yeah, will we see attacks in the final hour of this race, or will we just see this same tempo kind of discouraging everybody to attack, because that's what they are doing right now.
Yep, you can see the expression on the faces of the riders at the front. They're trying hard. You can also see the Portuguese team. It's a first for me to commentate on this team. So they've come up with their kind of bluey jersey with some kind of fancy design on them. So they've come up towards the front. So I can only think that they're thinking of trying to do something. But at this pace, it's very difficult.
Yeah, well, they had quite a few wins already this year, and their most winningest. The guy who won the most is racing here. It's Antonio Carvalho, and yeah, we talked about the Tour of Portugal, and there was a lot of top 10 places there for Antonio Carvalho. He didn't win a stage, but he was very close to winning these sprints there. So I think that is the man that they are looking out for, Antonio Carvalho. Yeah, the old flag there of Direct Energie. One of the most stylish kits that we had in recent years, that black with the yellow circles. I really like that. Past the pond, a little bit of trout fishing going on maybe in these ponds in France. I absolutely hate trout, Brian.
Carp? That's more than a pond, come on.
It's a lake. It's a lake. But when does a lake start and a pond end? Is a philosophical question.
You asked that question about hills and mountains as well.
That's true. But it's basically the estuary of the Yonne River, or the start of the Yonne River. It is a beautiful lake, and basically our lap is around the lake. Then we go over the bridge and back to La Roche, the town where we have our finish today. And there's, since nothing's happening, there's quite an interesting history to the city of La Roche-sur-Yon. It's not a city that was basically created organically. It was a city that was created by Napoleon back in the early 19th century, so 1804. He ordered the creation of the city of La Roche-sur-Yon as a model city and a administrative center. It was a planned city, so if you look at the map, you can see that it's absolutely not an organically grown town like we have so many here in the Netherlands or in the UK or in France. But this one was planned. Many neoclassical buildings, the fashion of the time, you know, the big boulevards and everything with trees lining them. It's the administrative center now of the region of the Vendee. And they have the History Museum of the Vendee as well. Vendee, traditionally a hub of resistance during the during the Second World War, but also way back in the time of the Bartholomew Night, for example, when Protestants were basically slaughtered. When the Edict of Nantes was retracted, and the king didn't specifically ask for the slaughter, but that is what happened in the country. But here in the Vendee, there was a really fierce resistance throughout the years, everything coming from the capital. We have the University of La Roche-sur-Yon here, if you want to get a little bit of education. But yeah, it's not a city with churches that are 500-600 years old. They basically designed the city right here. Of course, other examples in the world, Brasilia is one of them, a man-made capital. They're trying to do it now in Indonesia as well, just get everything away from Jakarta. It's absolutely fascinating procedure how they try to do that. But we go back to the bike racing. We are making our way to the final kilometre, and we have an attack with Nance Peters.
Looks like that for AG2R Citroën, with a reaction straight away from Groupama. You can see this. This is what I love about French racing. It's a, you know, when we get these attacks, it's a look around. If we miss this one, we need to get involved here. So, you know, it's kicking things off as you expect. You know, when you look at AG2R Citroën, they don't have maybe a sprinter that can match the likes of Demar and Cocard. So this is what they're going to try and do. They're going to try. Nance Peters already tried. He's going to be caught soon. So, you know, it's kind of kicking proceedings off now.
What you also see quite often in the Tour de France are these people with the camper vans and the big flags of the Total Energie. The people here in the Vendée feel really connected to the team of Jean-René Bernadotte. But the Total Energie team, I don't think they have the out-and-out favourite to actually win the race today. But two riders there of Groupama FDJ with Enzo Paledi and Clément David. We have indeed Nance Peters, and the man from the team from the south of France is Jean-Louis Leny. There we have the names with 125. He was on the attack, well, actually the first attacker of the day, Jean-Louis Leny, but that group was quickly caught, and then we ended up with the four riders we had at the front. There's a little bit of a drag here going to the finish line, Brian.
There is indeed. You know, we saw that last year from the VT. It's kind of a bit of a kind of drag up towards the finishing line, and you know, another attack here from AG2R Citroën. He's a national champion near the front. You know, he lives, I think, in the south, maybe Southampton, I think it is the area, or I forget where it is. It's Red Walters, the national champion of Granada. So he's up towards the front. It's. I thought we were going to see it there, white with the kind of Granadan flag across the middle.
Yeah, up until now, Karani James was, of course, the big star from Granada, the athlete, fantastic athlete. But Red Walters, it's good to see him in action there. He got that intern contract, didn't he, with Axel Merckx's team due to the interference of Theo Gegenhardt?
Yes, indeed. I first met him, it was only a few years ago. I did a reality program for the bike channel called The Coach, and you know, I was up against Rob Hales to name, you know, to coach someone from, I think there was definitely over 1,000 entries in the first edition of it, and this was the second edition, and Red Walters was one of the people that are riders that were going to move forward in it. Unfortunately, the bike channel went bust, and you know, that was the end of it.
Four attacks there. Really, the AG2R Citroën team are trying to make this some heart racing. They don't have a sprinter, of course. Clément Venturini, he's got a good kick, but beating the likes of Coquard and Demar will be a tough ask for Venturini. Riders are really trying to drink as much as possible on this rather hot day. And now we are on the smaller circuits. For the next time, of course, we're going to do one more big lap before we end up on the smaller circuits. We just did the first one, and now we're going to do the second one. It's 11.6 kilometers, basically around the lake that we just saw. Arkea Samsic racing here for and with Demar, Anthony de la Place. He was on the attack in the final last year. Donovan Condin, the man there in second position. Lucas Ovsian, Clément Rousseau, Dan McClay and Laurent Pichon. That is the team of Arkea Samsic with the very experienced sports director, Rocher Tréhin. A team that will have a new sponsor on board next year. The B&B Hotels returns, because of course it was not the fault of the B&B Hotels that the team didn't go forward. B&B Hotels was actually increasing their sponsorship, but Jérôme Pinot had promised or hoped that he would sign a whole lot of really big sponsors. Interesting enough, I'm thinking of it right now, Brian. Last year, Amazon was already mentioned as one of the potential sponsors in the Jérôme Pinot project. And now they're mentioned as one of the potential sponsors in the Jumbo-Visma Quick-Step merger. It never materialized, though. The team where Cavendish should be riding, the city of Paris was involved, and Amazon and huge companies, and eventually the entire thing fell through. But B&B Hotels are returning to the pro cycling on the side of Arkea Samsic next year. For the money that you pay, it's actually quite a good chain of hotels in France. There is Demar. He's wearing the Aero helmet there in fifth position on this little train. We're making our way to the lake yet again. Really high pace here. Nobody is able to attack, and there's a lot of work done by the Arkea Samsic team. We actually don't see anybody of Cofidis. Well, they have last year's winner, Brian. Where is Cofidis? Where are they?
They're just sitting back. They feel happy, but some teams do that. They have got some, really nice riders there. Nice to see that Oliver Knight is in the team. he has been signed. I was commentating, was it Tour Luxembourg recently, where Oliver Knight was riding there, stagiaire, or on the kind of development team stagiaire, and another kind of Rainer funded rider that is moving up the ranks into the pro team next year. So I think it was just announced a couple of days ago. But yeah, they do have some really good riders, but they're just deciding that, well, if Groupama and KS Samsic wants to control things, then let them do it. There's no breakaway, there's no real danger. As often, we sit back and, their card is Brian Cocard. They're just going to save everything to help him, where there's another kind of couple of teams in here thinking, we don't want it to be a sprint finish, but not a lot you can do when you get a couple of teams combining at the front like we are now.
Is there not like that the other teams think, well, where are you guys? You have got the same interest in this race as we have. Why are you not helping out?
Don't want to. There's no break. They don't want to. Just, you do your race, we will do our race. That's what happens. But there is a bit of a unwritten rules that you have to earn the right to fight. So in a lot of races, if you don't put a rider towards the front and you sprint at the end and you end up winning the stage, that a lot of teams will be maybe unhappy about that you've not contributed to the work. So sometimes these happens, but there's a lot of teams out there that just do their own thing, and there's no real reason. The job has been done by a couple of other teams, so they can afford to kind of sit back if that's what their job is to do.
It's not that sports directors are on the phone right now to other sports directors saying, right, guys, where are you? Help out.
It would be. I don't think it's a phone thing. It's just a casual drive up next to them, and you know what happens if you open the window or not. And I think the windows might be open, but if you don't open the window and you kind of kidding on, you're not kind of looking at them and just trying to ignore them, because you know what they're going to ask. They are asking if why aren't you helping out, but it happens in any sport, but definitely in cycling. There'll be a lot of chat in the cars behind. Why aren't you helping? And it's up to the sports directors to sort that out themselves. There's sometimes favours done in races. You kind of help each other out, and you keep that relationship. It's you'd think that Cofidis not riding, if they win with Cocard again, then it'll make some other teams a little bit unhappy. So next time that Cofidis come to you and say, can you help out, what are you likely to say? So you don't really kind of want to make kind of enemies, but it's always the same, and this is why I like covering French racing, because there is always that kind of French team rivalry. They just, that's what they do, is they fight against each other, and others benefit, but it's more that kind of rivalry.
Yeah, and like we explained before, there's so many teams at the highest level in France. 4 World Tour teams. There's no country that has that many World Tour teams. Sadly, Italy's got none, which is just not great.
When I was growing up, Italy was, I think, one of the kind of top nations for cycling. That's where a lot of the equipment was coming from, and now with economy, it's look where they are. Even a big cycling nation like Belgium, I've got only
3.
2 teams. 3 teams.
Yeah. Now Lotto
2
Destiny, of course, relegated.
Yeah.
So they got 2. They used to have 3. Nice little bit of new asphalt there for the riders to enjoy. We are 3 kilometers out from the finish line. Normally, if they do road works here in France, they just throw like that split, like little gravel on the road, and they hope that the cars just will ride it in. It's absolutely disastrous for your tires on your bike. I was lucky this year. I ride tubeless, and I did about 600k and no flats. But if you look at my tyres right now, they need replacing. So I didn't have any flats, but the tyres do need replacing. And what's really scary about French roadworks is that sometimes the gravel is so deep that on a descent, for example, you end up in that gravel and you just lose your wheel and there you go. So this is the better way. But if you are in France and you see one of these signs on the side of the road say Gravillon, please beware, because it's kind of dangerous. Here they just threw some asphalt on, but most roadworks in rural France are done with the dreaded Gravillon.
Yeah, it's the same here. As I was out yesterday and the road had been resurfaced, and they just thrown. They hadn't repaired the holes underneath, so they just put that kind of gravel down and it kind of sunk down, and you know the roads are still bumped, so the kind of holes in that are still there. It filled in a little bit, but it's still bumpy.
So we're back towards the finish line. We do have a new team at the front. It's hardly recognisable because we do have some other colours. But we also have this sprint classification that that we play here. And it looks like the riders of Nice are interested in that with Paul Hennequin. He was, of course, part of our breakaway of 4. And that's why the team are now doing this to make sure that Hennequin, the man with 1, 2, 3, is picking up the points. It might seem to be a little bit of a strange move there, but this is for the intermediate sprints that we have on the finish line. We've got 2 more to go. Time for refreshments again for the peloton on this rather hot day.
If you can get it.
If you can get it there, that's always the question. In Belgium, kids, when they apply for a license, they go through the Vlaamse Wielerschool, the Flemish cycling school, and they also learn how to take a bottle. It's part of the lessons, actually, how to safely grab a bottle without having the bottle end up in the middle of the peloton, in your own wheel. And it can be very important, I think Geraint Thomas will agree. So now we go on the small laps around La Roche-sur-Yon. This is different to what we had last year in the race when we did the big lap a couple of times. Now this is 5.9 kilometers, so it's basically becoming a criterium in the final 22 kilometers of this race, and especially due to the speed and the small roads that we have here, you can see that the peloton is truly elongated. And the final of the race, the final 30 minutes will be pretty intense. Welcome to those of you joining us straight from the Belgian race La Famine. We go to the Tour de Vendée. This is the final race of the French National Cycling Cup. 17 races in total. Arnaud Delis actually is the leader there. You might know that he was quite busy doing something else today. So we're looking at the attempts by the French teams to take the overall lead and the overall win in the French National Cup. We started all the way back in January with La Marseillaise, and this one is traditionally the final of the 17 races. We have a rather small peloton here of just 100 riders, 4 World Tour teams, all French, and 207.1 kilometers to go. We started in the town of Mouilleron-Saint-Germain, but we have been racing around La Roche-sur-Yon for quite some time. It's the administrative capital of the region of the Vendée. The Vendée, also the home region of the Total Energy team. And we're looking at the final race today of Peter Sagan, the former world champion, 7 times green jersey, 12 stage wins in the Tour de France. But we're also looking at the goodbye of this man, Laurent Pichon, a man from the region. He's been part of the Arkea Samsic team and all its previous guises for quite some time. These are also the final 20 kilometers of his career. Very short summary of what we've seen today. Basically an attack straight from the gun, breakaway of 4 riders, 2 French riders, Paul Hennepin and Thomas Gachinard, one from the Basque Country, Eneco Asparen, and one from Italy, Filippo Ridolfo. But they were caught quite some time ago, and now it's about the sprinter teams keeping everything under control. Brian Smith, who are the sprinters that we're looking out for here, for the people just tuning in?
I think the top 2 are Arnaud Demar and Brian Cocard, the 2 riders that were first and second last year. Adding to the mix, dare I say it, Peter Sagan, but he's got Jason Tesson to kind of help a little bit as well. You've got Groupama, who've been riding at the front pretty much all day today. They've got Paul Penway.
Yep.
And
that
also
is the
you've
band
got
who's in the running to actually win the Coupe de France. He's only 4 points behind Delis. And if he finishes in the top 12, he will be the overall winner. So that is a name to look out for.
I think the 2 riders that are up there in the classification as well, Demar and Cocard. So, but apart from that, Thomas Boudin maybe for Roubaix, Romain Cardis, San Michel, but the two main sprinters are Coquard and Demar. Brian Coquard's team of Cofidis are kind of sitting back, but Demar's team in the reds very interested in this one, as well as Groupama in the blue. They are really kind of thinking of Penway.
Yeah, this was the sprint. This was the final kilometre of the race last year when Arnaud Démare was still part of the Groupama FDG team. There was an absolute royal lead out there for Arnaud Démare, with still 3 riders in front of him in that final kilometre. On the wheel of Démare, in the colours of Cofidis, we have Brian Coquard, and on the wheel of Coquard in green, it's Luca Monzato and his lead-out man of the B&B Hotels team. The final kilometre is exactly the same final kilometre as we will see today in the Tour de Vendée, and there's a little drag up towards the finish line, which makes it very important to time your sprint. And here we have that final lead out by Ramon Sinkeldam for Groupama FDG, with Arnaud Démare on his wheel. Coquard in the red, Monzato in the green, and the final sprint. Coquard there staying really, really low, and Démare, of course, a lot bigger than his compatriot. And through the middle, with some mighty pedal power there, is Brian Coquard. He wins the Tour de Vendée 2022, and let's see, because in 17 kilometers from now we will know if he's going to repeat that performance or if Arnaud Démare is going to bring home the first win for his new team of Arkea Samsic, the team that he joined on the 1st of August. The mid-season transfer there for Arnaud Démare. The rest of the top 10 in 2022: Monzato, Noppe, Louvel, Sinkeldam, Sarrault, Dujardin, Simon and Maël Guégan. Back to the racing here. Yeah, we're looking at the final 16.5 kilometers of the career of Peter Sagan. We just saw a little while ago a great clip, a little interview with the man from Slovakia, 3 times world champion. There's a handful of riders who managed to do that in their career, but he's the only one to do it 3 times in a row. Richmond, Doha and Bergen for Sagan. There were stage wins in the Tour, also a few in the Giro and the Vuelta. 7 green jerseys, Roubaix, Flanders, and yeah, an absolute rock star of cycling. And what he meant for cycling is quite nicely illustrated by a message that was sent to me by Angel from Cairns in Australia. And she said when she was having some health problems, it was actually Peter Sagan that got her interested in cycling. And she said the thing that Sagan did in cycling is bring people into the sport who normally would not be following the sport. He is that kind of character. And like you said before, Brian, most cyclists are maybe a little bit boring.
Did I say that? Or was that
you said you said you were boring. You said you were boring.
No,
you did say you were boring. You did say that.
I will say that most cyclists, we may be touching on boring, certainly lack character, and Peter Sagan was definitely a character of our sports. He's moving over to mountain biking, as we all know. We're losing a few other kind of top name riders, but we like characters like Peter Sagan, and it'll be sad to miss him some of these road races.
Yeah, because I was at the start of the Tour earlier this year in the Basque country, and of course the Basque and the Spanish riders got a huge applause, but after that it was not the defending champion Vingegaard, it was not Wout van Aert or Mathieu van der Poel. No, it was actually Peter Sagan get the biggest applause there on the podium. I think he even did a wheelie of some sorts on the podium. Started his career when he was 19 with the Liquigas team, and these are the final 15 kilometers of a career with 121 professional victories and almost as many second places. But for now, we have a pretty impressive display of power for Arkea Samsic, with in 5th position of this train, the only one with an aero helmet. Arnaud Démare, ahead of him, in front of him is Clément Rousseau. We have Anthony Delaplace, Donovan Grondin working here, and Dan McLay as well, the British rider. Behind them is the team of Groupama FDJ. Sadly, the Kiwi Lawrence Pithy, who won one of the Coupe de France races earlier this year in the Loire region, has abandoned, but all eyes will be on the man with number 31, because like I said, he's only 4 points behind Arnaud Delit in that final classification of the French National Cup. And for French teams and for French riders, that truly is a big deal. If you look at the general classification for teams, Cofidis has got 11 points on Groupama FDJ and seem to be okay for the overall win there in the team classification, unless something goes completely wrong today. In Groupama FDJ, you've got 4 riders in the top 10. But all their eyes will be, all their balls will be on Paul Penouet, a young sprinter. He looks awfully young, Brian. We saw him in a pre-race interview, but he already showed some good sprints earlier this year. His lead-out man will be Bram Welter, also a former winner. Here we go over the river, and we're making our way towards the finish. We are on local circuits here. We just did a really big loop of 155 kilometers before ending up here in the capital of the Vendée region, La Roche-sur-Yon. Then we did 2 big laps of 11.6 and now 4 small laps of 5.9. And when we cross the finish line, we got 2 more laps to go. What I found remarkable, Brian, is the complete absence at the front of the team of Brian Coquard, Cofidis, including their new signing, Ollie Knight.
They're happy, you know, they're sitting there. You just mentioned it, you know, they're leading the French Cup, so I think Brian Coquard definitely shown some nice form recently, and I think definitely a danger man for any of the other sprinters here. But you know, why would you do it? Some people say you have to kind of earn the right to fight, but there's no breakaway away. If Arkea Samsic want to do this, they had a little bit of help from one rider from Groupama, but not now. Arkea Samsic in the red have really kind of taken this one on, taking it on from the front, and Cofidis are more than happy just to sit in the wheels and save all their energy to try and help Brian Coquard in the sprint final.
Our Finnish camera here, that little drag, it's not really a lot of elevation, but still there is a little. We have Rhett Walters there as well, the man from Granada, in his fantastic team, well, national jersey, I should say. There he is, in our view, racing for the X-Speed United Continental team. Here we go. It looks like, or I'm a little bit afraid, actually, Brian, that they might just light their matches a little bit too soon there, the riders of Arkea Samsic. We've still got 11.6 kilometers to go. They're down to 4 right now.
Yeah, they are. And this is going to be a huge job by the rider in front. You know, is he going to do a whole lap, and then the next rider do a whole lap again? It's very difficult to do, and especially deep into this race. You know, a lot of the work earlier on was done by Pichon, the local rider. He's since been dropped. And like we just seen there, the last efforts of one of their other riders that was doing the riding at the front. But, you know, Demar has done this in the past. You know, he's used up his team and kind of left his kind of own devices a little bit. I think the important thing for him is just making sure that this isn't an aggressive final couple of laps here. So that's what Arkea Samsic are doing. They can gamble a little bit, hoping that maybe Cofidis and of course Groupama will start to ride, because you know they're another couple of teams that really don't want anybody else to kind of chip off the front. So I think it's a case of, you know, use your team to your advantage. Still waiting a little bit, and I'm sure that Pires Sagan is thinking of something. You know, what Total Energy is going to do. Are they going to just kind of all ride for Pires Sagan towards the end, or you know, are they going to kind of try and kind of kick things off? But with this speed, that Arkea Samsic are doing at the moment, it's always going to be very difficult. It thwarts anybody thinking of trying to go in the attack, and it's not, Jose, as if there's any kind of launch pads here. I think the only kind of launch pad is through the finishing area.
Yeah, so it's all about keeping that pace high so that nobody attacks, and this has been the case for the past 30 kilometres.
Yeah, it's exactly that, unfortunately, and maybe not great entertaining racing, but this is what happens when you've got, you know, kind of one of the top sprinters in the race, and he's sitting in 4th place, and Arnaud Démare is looking for that kind of first victory with his new team. Yeah,
he made that transfer in August, a mid-season transfer where both parties were in agreement, signed a 2.5 year contract, so to say, for the Arkea B&B Hotels team, as it's called, from next year. His last victory was the Brussels Cycling Classic. Very active racing there, fantastic aggressive racing, and then there was a 4th place a month ago, just over a month ago, in Hamburg. There was a 7th place 3 weeks ago in Grand Prix de Fourmies in the north of France, a 3rd place in Isbergue 2 weeks ago, and yeah, the European Championships where he had a mechanical in the final hour, so he didn't really play a role in that respect. So this could be the first one. He's got another few chances, going to race Paris-Bourges, which is on Thursday, I think, and then of course on Sunday the last race of the French road season in Paris-Tours. A lot of work done here by Anthony de la Place, one of the riders who was on the attack basically in the final of the race last year, when he didn't have to do the kind of work that he has to do today. Anthony de la Place, a rider who's always incredibly trustworthy when it comes to racing for his team captain. He's got 2 wins on his palmarès, one all the way back in 2011, and then last year a fantastic win for the man who's now 34 in Paris-Camembert, his first win in 11 years. He's got another year on his contract with the team and has been part of the same structure for his entire career in all the different names that it had in the past. So this is his 15th year on the team of what's now called Arkea Samsic, of Emmanuel Hubert. We have an attack from the riders of AG2R, who don't have they don't have a sprinter apart from Clément Venturini, who could very well sprint to a 6th place, but I don't think he has the speed to really win the race. And Nance Peters, he's been awfully active. What is in it for him, Brian? Why is this like the 4th time he does this?
He's been told that, you know, they want to try and kind of break it up, make it a little bit more tactical than just kind of formulaic, ride on the front, keep it all together. And this is what, you know, they're expecting. He'll be expecting some of his teammates to kind of counter, so just try and kind of break it up. He's looking around, where are you guys? And I think maybe something will happen on the drag up towards the finish, and afterwards you see the team in white kind of moving up, Brian Cocard moving up as well. He doesn't want to kind of be left out, but Groupama in the blue and Arkea Samsic have got a stranglehold of this race for the moment.
Get a little bit of help here. I think this is Enzo Paleni of the Groupama FDG team. We also have the pink and white of Van Rijssel, Roubaix Lille Métropole, Bouda and Tomadini, 2 of their fast riders there. Little moment there with Arnaud Démare.
Yeah, we're just looking at that, and then we got the overhead. It was very difficult to see who he was remonstrating at, and when I saw the camera on who he was next to from the helicopter shot, it looked as if it was one of the Cofidis riders. Maybe he was gesturing as if, come on, you know, you do some work. Yeah, you do some work.
Well, it hasn't really helped, because we're still with the same teams at the front, and Groupama FDG helping out now with one of their riders. It's think Clément, is it 37, 33? I can't see. But this is our final lap. We have some more teams getting to the front. Peter Sagan is still part of this peloton. It's more or less complete. The racing has not been super hard because we had that breakaway of 4. They were never given more than 2-3 minutes. But the peloton left it really, really late to catch them, almost coming to a standstill with speeds of 20, 25 kilometers an hour. So the racing has not been super, super hard for the riders here. But the weather circumstances are hard, Brian. It's about 30 degrees Celsius today.
Yeah, nice and warm for the riders. But, you know, hopefully this race will heat up in this final lap. I thought this could have been an opportunity just as they turn right over the top of this small climb, try to do something. But some other teams trying to move up. Total Energies moving up a little bit. That would be the dream. Helping Peter Sagan. He's just on the right hand side. I think by the looks of things, they're quite happy sitting back and possibly just helping Peter Sagan to a sprint victory rather than anything else. So I think by the looks of things, we're going to get Peter Sagan getting involved with the sprint here. He's very capable. We touched on the fact that with Total Energies we haven't really kind of seen the best of him, but I'm pretty sure he's kind of passed on a lot of experience. But he's very capable of getting on the podium here. Absolutely no gifts in this game, but if he can get on the podium, I think he would look at that as a success.
And now the speed is well and truly up inside the final 5 kilometers of the Tour de Vendée. A total of 207.1, meaning that we just reached that 200 kilometer boundary. We go over the river again. They're on the bridge. The river Yonne, the name giver of this town, La Roche-sur-Yonne, that was basically created all the way back at the start of the 19th century. There was nothing here, and Napoleon, he wanted a model city, and there they just built a city here as an administrative region, and now is the headquarters of the Vendée. If you look on the map, we are down in the western part, not far from the Atlantic coast here, about 20 kilometers from the beach is where we are racing. It could be a great day for the beach with the temperatures that we have today, but we have a bike race to look at. And for the first time, we have riders of Cofidis getting to the front. Helping Brian Coquard today are Thomas Champion, Ilan Larmet, Delettre, Finet, Perichon, and Ollie Knight, one of the Brits on the start list. Ooh, this is not what we want to see. Big crash there. Looks like it happened all the way at the end of the peloton. Let's see if we have a replay. No, it was about, in the middle. Normally, you would expect that the top sprinters were ahead of this moment. And our top two are, Brian, with Coquard and Demar. They're absolutely in front of the crash. Another name to look out for is Matthias Kopecki. He's there with one of his teammates racing in that green-bluish jersey of Novo Nordisk. Jason Tesson, another name. Peter Sagan, 2 options there for Total Energie. But yeah, we're looking at that possibly a fantastic battle yet again between Demar and Coquard.
It looks that way. This is super fast from Cofidis. Now I doubt that second group at this pace will come back. So I hope everybody that's, we've mentioned sprinter wise has made it into this kind of front group. You can see that Peter Sagan just been shepherded on the right hand side. 3 kilometres to go now, and Cofidis come at last, as you say. They've got their man in 5th place, and now we see Total Energies bringing Peter Sagan up towards the front. And let's dream. He's very capable of winning this. His last road race of his career, very capable of winning it. But he is up against 2 kind of on-form sprinters in Arnaud Demar and Brian Coquard.
3 wins this year for Brian Coquard, 2 in a stage race in April, and 1, of course, that World Tour win, one of his very few World Tour wins in the Tour Down Under. 2 wins for Arnaud Demar. It was his first, indeed,
yes.
Yeah. His first World Tour win. He's got 51 wins, so a big moment there for Coquard in Australia. 2 wins for Demar this year, the most recent one being the 4th of June in the Brussels Cycling Classic, and that is a pretty big race. Was a pretty good sprint as well. Very active race. We're going for a fantastic clash of two of France's top sprinters. Sadly, only a very small peloton here racing in the Tour de Vendée. Just 101 riders taking the start. There's so much racing going on, despite the fact it's the 1st of October. Riders are racing all around the world as we speak. We've got 4 races on today here on Eurosport GCN Plus and Discovery Plus, and this is one of them. 2 kilometers to go, full speed now with Groupama FDJ all in for Paul Penouet. Of course, it would be absolutely fantastic for the young man from Brittany if he pulls off the win. But if he gets the points, he will win the overall classification of the French National Cup. And that is worth a lot for the Groupama FDJ team. We do have Peter Sagan moving up. There's one man on his wheel, and that is Jason Tesson. I kind of expect that Sagan is going to be a lead-out man, but maybe they'll grant him this final chance of actually winning a bike race here in the Vendée, which is the home base of his team of Total Energy. For now, Arkea Samsic with full control there, with Arnaud Démare, with Donovan Grodin and Clément Rousseau, the 3 riders at the front, followed by Groupama FDJ. We're inside the final kilometre of the Tour de Vendée 2023. There it is, Donovan Grodin on the front here with the moustache and the beard, the man who's so successful on the track as well. Clément Rousseau is the final man in front of Arnaud Démare with the aero helmet. It's twists and turns as we go right into the city centre of La Roche-sur-Yon. Also 2 riders in front of Paul Penouet, and on the wheel of Penouet we find Coquard on his own. A little train there with Total Energy as well, with, of course, our man with number 14, Peter Sagan, racing on the wheel of Sandy Dujardin. He's moving up now with number 14 is Peter Sagan, as the sprint is open by Bram Welter of Groupama FDJ. On his wheel we have Paul Penouet. Peter Sagan with final meters there, over his shoulder, glancing over his shoulder, and passing him now is Démare. Démare seems to be very late with his sprint right now, but we still have that gradient. He has to get past Paul Penouet. Arnaud Démare through the middle, Arnaud Démare, and it's a win by Arnaud Démare for Arkea Samsic. His 3rd of the year and the 1st for his new team. Another top 10 place for Peter Sagan, one of his many in his career, but not a win for him. The win goes to Arnaud Démare after, I must say, fantastic work by Arkea Samsic. The entire team deserve this win.
It was a good win for the team. You know, they deserved it. You know, they rode hard. The first win for his new team, Arkea Samsic, and Penouet went early. Sagan, it was clear that he was trying to lead out Jason Tesson, and just look how much it means to him. You know, winning is something else, but winning for your new team, especially with the amount of work that Arkea Samsic have had to do today. But it was kind of close in the barriers. I think Coquard was just kind of following, you know, this man here, but couldn't follow him all the way to the finishing line. And I thought the young sprinter from Groupama did a great sprint. Looks like he finishes in 2nd place, but you know, this has been coming. You know, this has been coming. You know, over the last few weeks, Arnaud Démare has been looking good. Okay, getting beaten by you know, other kind of sprinters, but in this sort of field, you know, he failed last year to win. You know, we're seeing it here again. He gets close to squeezing through the barriers. I think Brian Coquard had to kind of hold back there, but just you know, in the last 50 metres there, so much strength. I think Jason Tesson just taking 3rd place there, but that was quite an easy win there, from as easy as they get for Arnaud Démare.
Yeah, and well, he won Paris Tours in 21. He won it in 22. He might well go for the hat trick next Sunday. I can't really hear him, I'm sorry.
Un numéro à un moment donné, je me suis dit qu'on mettait un peu trop d'éléments, un peu trop d'énergie assez tôt dans la course. Puis finalement, voilà, ils ont vraiment assuré. Et voilà, franchement, aller pour eux aussi. Ouais.
Ça a été difficile un moment après Chantonnay. Il y a plusieurs éléments de l'équipe qui se sont retrouvés piégés. Vous avez réussi à remonter quand vous avez vu vos coéquipiers revenir. Vous êtes dit quoi on va pouvoir le jouer ce sprint.
Ouais, bah après on était encore 4 aussi devant.
Yeah, but we still had 4.
Donc voilà, on était quand même bien positionnés. C'est clair qu'il manquait
we still
des
did
bons
position
éléments.
well.
Après justement
Several of our
Lucas,
riders.
Laurent et Dan revient, ça nous a fait quand même des forces supplémentaires, mais à ce moment-là on n'était pas non plus en panique.
Félicitations Arnaud.
Well, we never really panicked. Yeah, the interviewer said, well, you as a team did quite a lot of work early on in the race, but then Demar said, yeah, we still had 4 riders with De La Place, with Grondin, with Rousseau, and with Demar himself. Also mentioned Dan McLeod doing some work early on in the race, and of course Laurent Pichon, who is also saying goodbye to professional cycling after this race, just like Peter Sagan just did. There he is, well, the cardboard version of him. He's not here just yet, this is the cardboard version. The top 10 of the Tour de Vendée: Desmar, Penouet, Dujardin, Coquard, Venturini, Delettre, Levaux, 7 French riders, Bramvelte, Peter Sagan 9th, and Godson Martin in 10th place. Arnaud Desmar more than ready for Paris Tour next Sunday. Because that is going to be our last road race. We of course have the time trial always, the Chrono des Nations in France, but the last race is going to be Paris Tour. You'll be able to see that next Sunday here on Eurosport, GCN Plus and Discovery Plus. And there he is, number 14. It's Johan Cruijff's number. Today it was Peter Sagan's number, and a 9th place in the final race. Another top 10 place. He's had so many top 10 places in his career, and this was the final one. An icon of the sport says goodbye. And Paul Penouet with that 2nd place did exactly what he had to do, finish in the top 12 to take the overall win in the Coupe de France classification. He won one of the races earlier this year. That was the Tour de Finistère on his home ground, actually. That was on the 13th of May, but being very consistent overall in the classification and winning it overall. Cofidis won the team classification. Yeah, the 52nd edition of this race, the first one all the way back in not 52nd then, all the way back in 1980, with a breakaway of 4, Gaginard, Inecat, the 2 French riders, Inocoits, Asparen, and for the Basque Country, for Spain, and Filippo Rodolfo, the Italian rider. 2 riders remained at the front, the 21-year-old Asparen and the man who is making a transfer to Total Energy next year, Thomas Gaginard. That was at 51 kilometers to go, 5 kilometers out from the first of our local circuits. Yeah, and in the final hour of racing, not a lot has happened. We did see Laurent Pichon at the front of the peloton doing the final pedal strokes of the job that he's done most of his career, and that is working for others. Nance Peters was basically the only one in the final hour of racing who spiced things up just a little bit, but for the rest of it, Arkea Samsic and Groupama FDJ kept things under control to make sure that we would end up with a bunch sprint in the streets of La Roche-sur-Yon. Very small peloton here in Tour de Vendée. This race is left, right and centre. Italy, we've got the gravel Euros, we got the race in the Ardennes. Riders are still in Asia after the Tour of Langkawi. Still a very busy part of the season, so a small peloton. But despite the fact there were only 101 riders and just 7 for Arkea Samsic, they really kept this race under control. Sadly, in the final, we had a crash about midway into the peloton, but the big names, they were all up front, and the final lead-out train, Donovan Grodin here for Arkea Samsic, on his wheel, Clément Rousseau And behind Clément Rousseau is Arnaud Demar. On the wheel of Arnaud Demar, we have that little train for Groupama FDJ with Bram Welten as the final lead-out man in front of Penouet. And then in 7th position in the red, Brian Coquard, the winner of the 2022 Tour de Vendée. We also have Thomas Bouda. We have Dujardin together with Peter Sagan. But the sprint is and would have always been behind these two, behind Coquard and Demar. And one man is trying to disturb that, and that is Paul Penouet. This is Bram Welten, a former winner, and now he's here for the final lead-out for Paul Penouet, who stays on the wheel, goes on the left side, and now Arnaud Demar has to find that gap to get through, because it's a pretty powerful sprint there by the youngster of the Groupama FDJ team. He tried on the left side and then tried on the right side, and that was the right side. His first one for Arkea Samsic, thanks to a very strong team today. Just 43.5 kilometers an hour average, and that is due to the fact that, well, in that final hour after we caught the breakaway, the peloton almost came to a complete standstill. And there he is, Laurent Pichon, saying goodbye, the man from Quimper. This is what we do for the riders who say goodbye. A little bit of a guard of honor. A big thing there for Laurent Pichon, the man who selflessly rode for others basically throughout his entire career. He was part of many a breakaway in the Grand Tours that he did, 3 times the Tour, twice the Giro and twice the Vuelta. He won 3 races in his career. The Classique Loire-Atlantique, a stage in the Settimana Coppi Bartali, and in 2017 the Route Adélie de Vitré. 2017 his most successful year, and then he switched to domestique duties. Joined the team that he's now part of in 2017 after a little stint with FDJ, but started his career in the team of Emmanuel Hubert all the way back in 2010. A well-respected man in cycling, Laurent Pichon. 37 years of age. His final race is over. I think it's also nice to have the team together, because it was, of course, Arnaud Demar, but this was a very, very big team effort. Ooh, that was a crash, almost a crash there by Lionel lead-out man for Demar, Clément Rousseau. There's some pretty impressive work here by Bram Welten. And then Demar, he tries to go right. He can't find the right side, then goes left. Of course, now, from his perspective, the previous time I called it from our perspective, and he just had the speed. Penouet in 2nd place and Dujardin in 3rd. Coquard, Venturini, Delettre, Levaux, 7 French riders in the top 7. Bram Welten, the lead-out man, in 8th, and Peter Sagan. I don't know how many top 10 places he has in his career, but this was the last one.
d'Arnaud Demar, passé près de la victoire du côté d'Isberg lors de l'avant-dernière manche de Coupe de France il y a 15 jours de cela. Et bien aujourd'hui c'est la victoire qui lui tendait les bras. Nous le disions Mario, il y avait eu cette 3e place derrière Peter Sagan sur les routes du Tour de France. En 2018 il y avait eu cette 2e place l'an dernier. Là c'est la victoire pour Arnaud Demar. On aperçoit eh bien, tous les responsables du protocole avec Simon Felipeau aux côtés de Cédric Cartemont. On a le plaisir de retrouver également tout le comité d'organisation évidemment et du Tour de Vendée, tous ces bénévoles qui sont récompensés par cette journée de fête. Vous faites partie de la fête ici. Le public qui a été exceptionnel une nouvelle fois avec eh bien, un épilogue de toute beauté, la victoire donc d'Arnaud Demar. Sandy Dujardin, bah ouais, il est en train de souffler.
And the cycling is not over just yet because we go to the big threaded tyres in America, round 10 of the Mountain Bike World Series. Today is cross-country day with Puk Pieterse, of course, and Léona Lecomte, and all the superstars of riding. Sadly, no Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. She was supposed to ride the gravel Euros today, but got ill. Hopefully she can recover and defend her title next weekend. But this is the Mountain Bike World Series from snowshoe, downhill, not downhill, cross-country. Downhill was yesterday. Cross-country, men's and women's. So that is some great bike racing to watch while you're having your Sunday dinner.
Et qui avait pronostiqué une victoire de l'équipe Total Énergie. On est en train de se préparer. Mario est en train de tout noter du côté du protocole. Peut-être un petit mot, Périgues, parce que en tant que parrain de cette épreuve, toi tu es évidemment en tant qu'ancien de la formation Jean-René Bernonneau, tu espérais une victoire. L'épreuve a été super.
Yeah, and then we have one final interview ready that was made during the Tour de France earlier this year with Peter Sagan. And he drew a lot of fans into cycling from outside of the sport, and for that and for all the moments, we are grateful. There were seven green jerseys.
This is the first Tour de France for Peter Sagan.
There were 12 stage wins in the Tour.
Victoire d'étape sur le Tour de France. Il sait tout faire. Il est trop fort, le Slovaque.
And next to these 12 victories that he had, we had just as many second places. There were 121 victories in total, not only in the Tour, but it was also hugely successful in Switzerland, for example, in the Tour of California. There were 3 world titles in a row, from Richmond to Doha to Bergen. There were big classics, of course, the monuments, Roubaix and Flanders. There were 3 times Gent-Wevelgem. There was numerous Slovakian national championships. 1,074 days of racing since the age of 19 for this man, the Hulk from Slovakia. He says goodbye to road racing, but he will be back next year when he goes to Paris to try one more time on his beloved mountain bike. Thanks, Peter, for all the memories and all the fun on the bike that you've given us throughout the years.
Le podium, notamment bien du côté du monde des Algoules, où tu étais combatif du Tour de France. Ça vous a plu cette journée? Il vous reste encore un peu d'énergie? Eh bien, il en faudra, parce que dans quelques instants, on va saluer tous les lauréats. Alors, je me tourne vers Marion.
Yeah, we're saying goodbye to a lot of big names this year. Sagan, Annemiek van Vleuten, Thibaut Pinot, Greg van Avermaet, Sepp van Marken. But there's always a new generation, and this man is part of the new generation.
Vous avez failli vous imposer cet après-midi, malgré la victoire de la Coupe
Just
de France.
21 years of age,
C'est quoi votre
2
sentiment?
wins this year.
Sentiment mitigé, forcément. Je venais, comme j'avais dit, pour faire coup double, donc je suis forcément déçu. Après un grand bravo à Arkea,
I'm a
Arnaud,
little
il était
bit
très fort aujourd'hui,
disappointed,
donc on contrôlait toute la
but
course.
I know it was just too
C'est
strong.
vrai que moi, voilà, après, en regardant les images, j'aurais sûrement dû lancer d'un peu plus loin. J'ai lancé un peu plus de 200 mètres.
Going
Le
to
sprint
watch
était en
the
feu plein
images
de temps,
again,
mais
and
voilà, je
maybe I
savais que ça pouvait
started my
convenir,
sprint
donc
too early.
j'ai tenté et on peut pas revenir là-dessus.
I tried, and I never managed
On
to
sent,
get
on sent un petit peu de déception
past him.
dans votre voix là.
Oui, comme je vous l'ai
Yeah,
dit, c'est
I
mitigé.
feel a little bit of
Mais
disappointment
après,
from
voilà,
your
il
part.
faut quand même essayer de relativiser. Un grand
Yeah,
merci à
of
toute
course you
l'équipe qui
have
ont
to,
travaillé
to look
aujourd'hui
at
tout autour de moi. C'était quand même une journée assez stressante avec, parce qu'on
It
avait,
was,
comme je l'ai dit, une double
stressful
mission
day.
entre guillemets. Et voilà, tout a été super bien
I've
géré
been
jusqu'au
very
circuit
busy
final,
since
jusqu'à
the month of
l'arrivée.
May.
J'ai pu être emmené dans les meilleures dispositions. Donc voilà, le taf a été fait de la part de tout le monde. Et voilà, moi après j'ai
Yeah,
pas réussi à
I'm pretty
conclure
tired
le
this
travail
time of the
d'équipe,
season, but yeah, that
voilà, on
goes
peut
for
se
the rest of
consoler avec
the
le général
peloton
de
as well.
France qui était un objectif pour l'équipe et pour moi.
Yeah, it was
Petite
a
question, comment
goal
vous
for the
voyez
team,
votre
for me
fin
as
de
well, to
saison
win the
maintenant, Paul?
overall in this
Il me reste 2 courses, donc forcément
Coupe de France. Yeah, I still
j'espère
got a few races to
encore
go.
en gagner une, ça serait bien. Et
I would
voilà,
still like to win
maintenant
one.
l'objectif de l'équipe a été rempli. Maintenant, voilà, mon objectif personnel de 3 victoires, j'espère qu'il sera accompli dans les 2 prochaines courses.
Merci,
Yeah,
merci
he's
Paul.
got 2 more races on the calendar, and he hopes to go away with a win. His last races will be Tuesday, Binge in Belgium, and Paris-Bourse on Thursday in France.
Il est avec ton avocleur, le recordman de participation à l'épreuve. 14 ans professionnel, 13 participations au Tour de Vendée, 5 fois dans le top 10, c'est Laurent Pichon.
He is a local hero, Laurent Pichon. And also, 14 years of being professional, and almost every year he took part in the Tour de Vendée from 2010 to 2023. Yeah, I'm proud we tried to win the race, and we did win the race, so I'm happy.
Tu porteras cette cité à tout jamais dans ton cœur. Tu as été sacré ici en 2017.
Ah ouais, la Coupe de France, c'est un de mes meilleurs souvenirs en 2017.
Yeah, the French National Cup races are my best memory.
Il pleuvait, mais ouais, La Roche-sur-Yon, comme je dis, pour demander, c'est pas très loin de la Bretagne, donc je suis presque à la maison et ça me faisait plaisir de finir ici.
Allez, on sent très ému, on va lui réserver une ovation.
Yeah, his best result here was in 2011 and 2013 when he was 4th. And like I said before, yeah, basically from the year 2018 on, he started to do more domestique kind of work. Laurent Pichon. Absolutely a local hero here in the Tour de Vendée. The forests are already in autumnal colours. It's the 1st of October. Our cycling season is drawing to an end. But don't worry, we've got cyclocross for you. Tonight, the second round from Charm City, Baltimore. Yesterday, a victory for Anton Ferdinand, the Belgian rider, and the 5th in a row for Magali Rochette. Ian and Jez will be with you tonight from the Mention Hill lawn, actually, for round 6 of the US cyclocross. And will it be the first victory for Andrew Strohmeyer? It might as well happen, so please tune in, because it's a lovely course there in that big park in Baltimore. A big trophy. Not as big as the ones that I saw in Langkawi. Those were huge. It's like, how do you even take them on? Just look up the pictures of the podium of Langkawi with Simon Carr. The trophy was almost bigger than Simon is. But this is a pretty big one as well. But he's got more objectives this year, Arnaud Desmar. He wants to go for the triple in Paris Tour. He's got 2 in a row already, 21 and 22, and he has got the form, like he showed, to do it again. No Mathieu van der Poel, as was announced for Paris Tours. He called the season quits and is focusing on the cyclocross. There's more racing for you to watch back on our digital channels. We had the European Gravel Championships in Oud-Heverlee in Belgium, and of course next weekend we got the World Championships in the northeast of Italy. Hopefully with defending champion Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, but she fell ill, and Johnny Vermeer's there in the men's race. I must say that I like the trophy for second place a lot better than the one for first place. I would actually put that on my proverbial mental piece that I, well, do not have. But that's a nice trophy. A little bit of glass work there. Let's see what they have in store for the number 3. Maybe that's even better. Just holding out for that one. There is Sandy Dujardin. Did some really great work at the European Championships, absolutely instrumental to the win of Christophe Laporte. No, the one for 3rd position is absolutely nah. I'll go with the one for 2nd position there, without the base, because that looks horrible. Well, that was it from the Tour de Vendée. Brian Smith and myself, Jose Ben, will be back on Wednesday, but Brian is back tomorrow with more racing from Italy. The Coppa Bernocchi with Rob and Brian is the race that's on tomorrow, so enjoy that.